I can't believe that we spent so little time in dealing with Hal Jordan as a Green Lantern doing his duty. He gets this power, uses it, but is fearful and weak and so forth and so on. We should have, instead of what happens in the film where he's brought to Oa and he quits. He quits! I can't... Again, you know, that fits more to Kyle Rayner after the story arc with Parallax. When he is the last Green Lantern, he has to take all of the history of the Corps on his shoulders by himself, and he becomes doubtful that way. That would have been much better for this kind of portrayal. But no, we get him, he gets the ring on, doubts himself, quits the Corps, and then kind of doesn't. He saves the day. He doesn't get to thwart bank robberies. He doesn't get to thwart a terrorist plot. He doesn't get to save people from a burning building. Just the one helicopter crash, which Hector Hammond causes, and that's it. We don't get any more exposure of, like, oh, who is this mysterious hero and such. At least with Spider-Man, we got a montage of him saving people and all those things. You guys get what I'm saying. It was a film where the ball was dropped. There was a lot of potential here. This could have been a much better film, even with what we have, what we had. We could have had absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever at all. But we just breeze over everything so quickly. And part of it is told in narration by Jeffrey Rush's Tomare. Again, he does that part well. He is the story keeper. But we don't get to explore that much with him. We don't get to explore Ivan Soar more than what we did. We don't get to see him as a better mentor to Sinestro. And all these things where we have basically two films crammed into one. I'm disappointed. I would give it 3 out of 5 stars, but I'm terribly disappointed in a lot of ways. I'm looking toward a sequel, but the sequel hook we got was just terrible. I mean, god-awful. I mean, god-forsaken. Terrible, the sequel hook here. It comes just like with Marvel's been doing with their films, where they'll throw something at the end credits. You know, you tough it out through the credits, and you get to the end, and you get, you know, the ta-da, the big sequel hook. Like, oh, you know, I can't wait to see the next Hulk movie. I can't wait to see the next Iron Man movie. It's like, oh, here we are building up to the Avengers. We get those bits and pieces thrown in, and here it's just a complete ball being dropped situation. It's just blatantly taking Sinestro, who earlier in the film there was no real contention, at least not like it could have been in, again, First Flight. In First Flight, we got where Sinestro was coming from as a frustrated individual. Here, he's not very well frustrated. He's just told of a greater power, the yellow power of fear, and that's it. We're not really shown him being an abusive tyrant of Korrigar and his home sector like we are in the comic books. We're not introduced to him as a frustrated, rebellious Green Lantern as you are here. Excuse me. And instead we just get it chucked at us that he shows up, steals the yellow power ring, and then walks away with it. Why? Why? Why does he want to do that? Just the seduction of power? Well, I guess we... I don't know. As Sinestro is today in the comic books, where he has IGN has even topped him at number 15. Number 15. He's in the top 20 of greatest comic book villains, especially as his stock has risen over the years. Going from just simply somebody who was seduced by power to somebody that had grievances, who had problems with the established order, and then was seduced by the use of more power to change that. This is where, in The Dark Knight, where everybody loved it so much, because here was the Joker who was seduced by chaos, an agent, a force of chaos. We got that. With Sinestro, we don't get that. We really don't. I don't know. I've talked myself into disliking the film more. I went into the film expecting it to be bad. I mean, really bad. I thought the character designs, the costume designs, I really hated those CGI costumes. That looked terrible. And I was really dreading seeing this in 3D, where, fortunately my theater, where I live out in the sticks, sort of, my theater will run a 3D film in 3D for at least 2 weeks, maybe a month, depending on how well it does, and then it will switch over to a 2D format. Thankfully, that just tells me that I just need to wait out whatever movie I'm wanting to see, and then I can go see it in 2D. I hate the 2D effects. I really do. I've yet to see a film that does it really well and mean it. That we should see this in 2D more often. I mean, come on, guys. We learned back in the 50s this thing didn't work. And that was when we had 2 pieces of saran wrap over our eyes. We knew then it was a piece of crap. And now it's not doing any better. IMAX, maybe. I've seen a couple of movies in IMAX when I can. Those were good. But that's really expensive and really hard to get everyone fired up for. 3D just needs to go away again. Again. It's a tired old gimmick that we've done before. We don't need it. And as for it doing anything for this film, it really didn't need to. The CGI costumes, unnecessary. I'm glad of one thing. When they presented the trailers for Green Lantern and the unfinished film, I was horrified at the all-green costumes that just meshed everything together into green, lighter green, and dark green. It looked like a snot bubble, It was horrific. And even then, when we did get it to the traditional green, white, and black, which I think is a very eye-grabbing costume, when we got that, we still had this bizarre kind of costume where it was muscles and tendon. It looked like green muscle tissue, and that was horrific. And the same effects were on all the other characters. It didn't look good on Sinestro. It didn't look good on Hal Jordan. It didn't look good on Abin Sur. It didn't look good on anyone. Yeah. I've talked myself into not liking the movie now. I still give it the 3 stars for looking good, of having great effects. Those were done good, except for the costumes. The 3D, not 3D, take it back. The energy willpower plasmic constructs, they look good, really good. And the way they snapped in and out, perfect. I mean, it looked good and it didn't look good because of those damn costumes. If you are a Green Lantern fan, you're going to have a love-hate relationship with this film. You really are. Especially if you really, really love the comic books and wanted a better film. I'll tell you, if you're dead set against this film already and you haven't seen it yet, don't bother. You're not going to like it. Just stay at home, Netflix, or rent First Flight, and some Emerald Knights. These were much better done things. They were better self-contained. They didn't go all over the place. Emerald Knights sort of did, with its 6 interlocking stories, but it was a lot better than just the two we could have had in this film. And the short shrifting with the Green Lantern Corps. We followed Hal Jordan around only because the script insisted we did. I'm starting to repeat myself and ramble. I've already given it 3 out of 5 stars. And that's for the performances we got from half the cast, especially the villains, and several other factors and factoids. But beyond that, if you got time to kill, go see it. You'll enjoy it. But otherwise, no, you'd be better off. I'm more excited, and I still remain more excited about Captain America, and I'm not a big Marvel fan, but the way they've set up the Captain America film, I'm fired up. I'm looking forward to that. That looks good, especially with this kind of combat, military style Captain America uniform. That looks good, and the overall style and structure is fantastic looking. I'm hoping that we'll get a better film there, and I'll be there to see it. I'll be stoked for this film. Not so much as this one. I wanted to be, wasn't let down. Hoping that if they do any more of these films, if there are any sequels, we'll get a better job of it. But in the meantime, that's all I can say. C.S. Bernard for Geeky News, signing off. See you later.